everybody, and you're watching the latest episode of United in Strength. I'm Mike, and I thank you so much for checking this episode out. In my previous episode and product review, I spoke about the Chuck Taylor All-Star by Converse, my very first shoe specifically for lifting. Today, I get to talk about, in my second product review, my favorite lifting shoe probably ever so far. This is the Reebok Crossfit TR Lite. This was a shoe that was originally released on New Year's Day 2014, if I'm not mistaken, and it was a joint project with Mark Bell and Jesse Burdick, two powerlifters. There's a dog in the camera. Go away, dog. So, Mark Bell, for those of you who don't know, not only is he a powerlifter, you might have seen him in the documentary Bigger, Stronger, Faster, directed by his brother Chris. And he is also the owner of the Super Training Gym and the founder of Power Magazine, and he's also created the Slingshot. So, the whole point of this gym is to be Chuck Taylor's on steroids, essentially. And by the way, this is in conjunction with an article I wrote on my blog called Chuck Taylor's on Steroids, the Battle of Mark Bell and the CrossFit TR Lite. I'm going to leave the description. I'm going to leave the link for that in the bottom of the description box. So, the point about this and why this is called Chuck Taylor's on Steroids is because Mark wanted a shoe that gave the lifter the ability to use his or her own foot. So, in a Chuck Taylor, your foot sometimes, the shoe might be a little bit too narrow, and you need to use your entire foot so you can get that split the ground effect. Because if you're deadlifting properly, you're treating it like an inverted leg press. You're not using your back, you're using your leg drive, and you're pushing your feet down to the ground. Alright? So, again, it's called the split the ground feeling, or pressing the ground away. And that made this the first ever shoe that was designed by lifters for lifters, the same way that the Chuck Taylor was originally one of the first shoes specifically for basketball, or any kind of sport for that matter. So, here are some of the specifications of this shoe, because here's some of the things that make it way more comfortable than, say, even the Chuck Taylor. And by the way, I still have my Chuck Taylors. And these shoes are very durable. Remember one thing before I continue. If you just wear lifting shoes for lifting, they can last you a long time. I've had these for over 2 years now. I bought them in August 2015. It's now October 2017, and they still are in amazing condition. I admit I had to change the shoelaces, but that's irrelevant. So here's the deal. This shoe is made out of leather. It's a very light leather, but it's leather nonetheless. All around is leather. And inside of it is cotton, I guess, for comfort. But there is a leather around it, okay? The tongue is, I don't know if you can see it too well. Maybe here you can. But the tongue is made of mesh. Alright? And that's very beneficial considering that this is made out of leather and not canvas. So otherwise you probably want to get a lot of ventilation inside of your feet. Now would you? Now here's the most important, one of the most important parts. Here's the second most important feature for me. We're going to look here at the front of the foot. If you take a good look at this and you compare it to a Chuck Taylor, the foot is wider at the top, which is great for people with wide feet. It gives you the opportunity to use, again, your entire foot, including your toes, that press the ground feeling. If you are doing just the basic lifts, this is very beneficial. Even if you're doing overhead press or bench press, sometimes you need to use leg drive to help you push the weights up. Excuse me. This cough is one of the reasons why I've delayed making this video. Now for the most important part. Right here. Now don't mind the dirt. Remember, I still use these. But what you have here is a carbon rubber sole or heel, whatever the heck you want to call it. And the thing about this is what you see here are teeth going down. And the thing about these teeth, the great thing about them is they're very beneficial for traction. I'll give you a great example. This is actually on the blog post I'm going to give you the link to. When I first really started improving in my lifts, and I was still wearing my Chuck Taylors, and this isn't necessarily the reason why I bought these, but my previous gym had a power rack with a platform on it. Rather, it wasn't just a frame, and the ground part of it was diamond plated. I would go up to do my squat, and I'd slip around a little bit to find my footing. I would, a week or two later, squat again with these shoes on, and it took very little for me to find my footing and stay grounded, stay nice and tight. I was able to stick to the ground, the diamond plated ground, and I had no problem squatting, and I felt a lot more stable, and I felt a lot more secure. So these are very beneficial for squatting. So these shoes sound like they could be a nice big hit with the lifters, correct? Well, sadly they were discontinued. And why? Let's play a little game called What's in a Name exactly? Well, in a bad case of marketing 101, Reebok, how do I put this? In a bad case of marketing 101, Reebok chose to not necessarily jump out of their comfort zone, so to speak, or they just chose not to listen to Mark Bell. And there were a few things that they messed up on, and this is discussed in one or two other channels on YouTube. I already know that, but I liked to explore this stuff because I'm so upset about the fact that these shoes cannot be found. Hang on a second. Dog, what are you doing? Don't be scared. Come on. I love cats better. Anyway, one of the biggest problems with the CrossFit TR Lite and marketing to them was some of the color schemes. I know that not everybody feels the same way I do, but a lot of the color schemes were oh so bright and kind of ugly, if you will, even for my own tastes. Very, very ugly. You had colors that were, this is the flagship color. This was the main color, all right? And some people didn't even like this. I like all black. I have no problem with that. But we had some really bright colors. You had color on color. If you look at some of the designs, if you can see it, there were numbers. There's the Reebok logo, and there's some other things I'm going to get to in a moment. So, say the shoe could be black and there'd be like red lettering, or the shoe could be green with blue lettering. I'm talking bright green, or neon blue, or sky blue and some pink stuff. And that's good for the ladies, but not for the men, because most men lifters are more or less into solid colors like the Chuck Taylors by Converse, or even weightlifting shoes like the Adidas Powerlift. Yeah, they're block red, but they are a block solid color. Apparently you could go customize your colors, but then it would make it more expensive, because this shoe was just 89 bucks, which is about just that's after tax actually, and that makes it about 30-40 bucks more than a $50 Converse, which is still not a big deal. But if you're going to pay X amount more money just to customize your colors, and then suddenly it's the same price as an Adidas powerlifting shoe, you might as well just get the Adidas powerlifting shoe. That is two issues right there. And that's only part of the bad marketing. The other bad marketing. What is in a name? Well, that leads to the other problem, and it is right here on the tongue. That word right there, CrossFit. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and crap all over CrossFit. Enough people do that. But let's face it, powerlifters in general hate CrossFitters. And CrossFitters probably saw this shoe and decided that it wouldn't cater to them. Mark Bell, it has been shown in another YouTube video that Mark Bell did not want to call this the CrossFit shoe. He calls it the power shoe because that's what it's meant for. It's meant for power lifters. And I guess I could see on paper where Reebok were coming from. Powerlifting, yeah, it's becoming slowly more popular, which is great. But compared to, say, bodybuilding or even CrossFit, it's still a fringe sport. And Reebok is a major sponsor for CrossFit. I mean, CrossFit, who has the CrossFit Games every year on ESPN or ESPN2. You know, you can't argue with that. So they probably saw this as a nice mainstream move out on paper. They thought if they put the CrossFit name on it, that perhaps more people would buy it. Or maybe the CrossFitters would buy it at least. That didn't happen because Reebok did not step out of their comfort zone to see that CrossFitters don't really care for shoes like this because it doesn't fit what they do. A lot of them wear more or less Adidas weightlifting shoes, if I'm not mistaken. And again, powerlifters, they probably just saw the name CrossFit on the shoe. They either thought Mark Bell sold out, which was not the case, or, you know, they just, I can't even explain honestly. They probably thought Mark Bell sold out, or they just saw the name and went, I don't think so, unless you're willing to ignore the name like I was and just try it for yourself and see. So, again, this shoe, I wish it wasn't discontinued. My understanding is Mark Bell is working with Reebok now to come up with a more updated and improved version of this, and probably they've learned their lesson, and they won't call this the CrossFit shoe anymore. It's a great shoe. It's a favorite of mine, and I don't want to get rid of it anytime soon. If I have to find like a black market pair of shoes on Amazon or eBay or something, I will. These shoes are extremely comfortable, way more comfortable than Chuck Taylor ever was. And again, I still have my Chuck Taylors, and I think they helped me out a lot in the last 2+ years. Thank you for watching. More videos to come very soon. Make sure you like this or subscribe to my channel and check out my blog post. Take care.